Morning, everyone. As I said, I was going to start getting my YouTube channel up and going again. So I think when I left for junior nationals, I got a little sidetracked, and then when I got home, business was super busy. Team had a great outing there, and then I've been super busy. So I wanted to get back on track here. Um, God, I look tired this morning. Yes, I am. Anyway, so I wanted to get back on track and answer some questions for people, put out good content. So I wrote down about five from the request I put out on Facebook, and I thought I would just try to hit them. So no real particular order here. I just kind of wrote them down. So someone asked a question for improving calves. I think I can speak on this. I don't have, those huge, excellent super heavyweight type calves, but I did start with not much. And, now I do get compliments occasionally, and then they'll say, oh, well, you played soccer, so that's why. But it's certainly not. Soccer did not help my calves at all. I think it actually made it tougher to build them because the muscle just didn't respond to the sprinting like some people's do. Maybe I just don't have as many fast twitch muscle fibers. Don't know. But so it's not like sprinting built me a nice set of calves. So how do you do it? First off, you have to ask yourself, are you really training them like you train your other body parts? A lot of us at least hit things twice a week. We're using 3 different exercises, 4 sets, maybe, 4 exercises, 4 sets. And then a lot of people to train their calves, they do 2, maybe 1 shitty exercise, and they're not really working to hit PRs on it, and they're not really working to add new weight, and they kind of just do them quickly at the end of a workout. So if that's you, that's one reason why you're not getting a response. So what I do is I hit them 2 to 3 times a week heavy. My calves are almost always sore, and I know people say, well, you're not recovering, blah, blah, blah. It works for me. But I use what Dante Trudell always said, and that is to get a really good peak contraction, hold it for 5 seconds, and then work through the entire range of motion. And at the base, I think he actually used to do 10-second stretch. I usually do about a 5-second stretch in the hole, and then a 5-second hold in my peak contraction. So you're not going to be going as heavy at first. You're going to have to back off. But you have to think about it. For me, I was sprinting year round, and that's generating a ton of force. And then we walk daily, and that's generating, I'm about 200-pound male. So, I bet the force of coming down on that, it's at least 300, 400 pounds every step. So, you've got to think about that and trying to get them to respond. So I use the 5-second contraction, 5-second stretch in the hole. If I can't work a full range of motion, I don't do the machine. And I would do that 2 to 3 times a week. And I will do 2 to 3 different exercises. The ones I like a lot are, it's like an angled calf machine, and you'll see old people doing their quads on it. But it's the best I can describe it. You're at a maybe a 45-degree angle ish to the floor, and you can work through a full range of motion. I really like that machine. And then I also do seated calf work, where you just put the plates on the pin that's above your knees, and then I do extensions off of a leg press that you can get a really great stretch on that as well. So those are usually my 3 go-tos. One last piece here. Even on the days I don't train them, in between just about every set, I don't care if it's chest day, arm day, whatever day, I will do 20 to 30 calf raises in between. Rather than standing there and twiddling my thumbs or looking at my phone, I'll do calf raises. And I'm not just whipping those out really quick. I'm coming up, I'm getting a peak contraction. If you can find a mirror, do it, because my left calf has a tendency to not fire as hard as my right calf. That's probably just because I'm right-handed, right-footed. So I've noticed that through the years, my left doesn't quite have the head on it that my right does. And so actually I do some unilateral work on that angled machine I was talking about. But anyways, I'll do calf raises. And I'll do that in between a lot of my sets on other days. So like I said, they're always kind of sore, but for me, nothing else worked. They finally started to respond when I just clobbered them and constantly forced blood into them. So that seems to help a lot for me. Consequently, that's also seemed about what's brought up my chest as well, which is another stubborn part of mine. So my body seems to just work really well. See what mileage you get out of it for your calves and maybe other stubborn body parts as well. Just doing them more often than what conventional wisdom says. So that's calves. Back width. This is one of those things where I feel like I've really kind of brought myself up as well over the years. I was really happy with the back width I had at Masters Nationals. It can always be better, but I was pleased with it. The exercise that I think has helped the most on that is when I trained with John Meadows, the pull downs he had me do that are really heavy and you stop about your forehead, so you're not coming down to your clavicle. So what that allows you to do is overload the muscle with more weight and keep constant tension just on those lats. So as you're pulling down, you're pulling with everything under the armpit and stopping right about here. And I mean, I can just feel that now. I've trained myself to be able to just pull down with those lats. And then as you come up, disengage the scapula and let it stretch you all the way up. Start working those in. I know last prep, I kept getting stronger and stronger on the lat pull down machine doing those, to the point where I had maxed out the machine and I had to put 10s on it. And was still finally getting like 12 reps on that. So, into my show, I was getting stronger and stronger on those. And even in the off season, I worked the hell out of those. We have 2 different lat pull downs in our gym, and they both feel very different. So I'll focus on one for an 8-week stretch of trying to hit PRs, and then I'll focus on another. And the one machine I've got maxed out, so each PR has to do with adding more reps than weight. I need to get one of those things that was going around the internet where you plug in an extra. The pin actually has another weight stack on it. I need to grab one of those. But anyways, I think those are great. And I learned those from John Meadows, so I want to give credit where credit's due. I think those are great. And then for me, especially in my early stages, it was always hard to feel my back work. I'm really good at it now, but it definitely took time. I think just rowing, just row. But for me, I don't know if this has something about my connections or my mind-muscle connection or lack thereof, but I do better on the Smith machine for my rows. I overhand and underhand on the Smith. I don't know, it allows me to move my body around. Sometimes the underhand feels better that when my body's like almost over the bar and I'm leaning really forward and then pulling back into my belt line. When I'm rowing overhand, I don't need to be in that angle as much. So I don't know, just something about the Smith allows me to play with my body angling a little more. And at the end of the day, the longer you do this, the more you're going to realize that there is a proper way to do everything, but you need to adjust angles and different leverages for your own body. And once you're able to do that, that's when you kind of become more advanced. Unfortunately, I feel like it took me longer. I've always been kind of a late bloomer, and I think it took me longer than I wish it would have. But at least I finally did kind of figure it out. So that would be a little tidbit I would pass on to you there as well. So back width, those heavy lat pull downs, stopping at the forehead. Actually, John always had at the top of the head, but I kind of like to just come down to like the middle. I don't think it really matters, but in any event, that's how I do them. So another question was my theories or feelings on protein veggies. And they had said in prep, but I'll also just throw in off season as well. So protein, veggies, and prep. Sure, do what you got to do. You do it. I did about maybe 10 days total of protein veggies for my quick 7-week prep that I did for junior nationals. And then I didn't touch them again going into masters because I was already pretty lean. And at that point, my body always works really well on a slow reverse. I can just keep adding carbs. And as long as I don't do it too fast, I'll get my food up and get the rest of the way shredded. But going in, I did use them. For me, I don't usually use them in prep because I prep longer, but it was a necessary evil. I just made sure that I didn't, overdo it. But honestly, when I did it, I raised my protein up to about 310 and then had 2 cups at least of veggies per meal. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. I don't know. I think people psych themselves out on this shit all the time. Like, at the end of the day, you got to be ready. So you do what you got to do. So I did it. I don't even really remember my training going down, to be honest with you. I feel like I remember sitting on the couches at night thinking, this isn't so bad. But I did jack my protein up to about 310, and usually I diet on about 265, 250. So I did have to compensate for that. And even then, that's only, 1,200 calories. And then, you add in some veggies. So I probably was on 1,500. And then at the end of the week, I would have a huge refeed. But that's my body. Some people can't get away with that. But I was needing, after those weeks, I think one day I did 1,200 carbs. But anyways, yes, protein, veggies, and prep, do it. Off season, I do like to reset insulin sensitivity. I've never really had to go to the protein veggie route. Usually I just do a couple keto days with fats in each meal and veggies with them, but it's not a protein veggie day in my opinion. It's more of a protein fat day, but they can be advantageous to some, especially who really push calories hard and need to kind of reset and kind of just get some hunger back. Maybe 1 or 2 days every 2 to 3 weeks might help. But so yeah, that's that. Diet burnout and what to do about it. I guess we all kind of go in stages of this. I think just for me, because I have a pretty good metabolism, I don't personally get much of this because I can kind of take a 2-week break and I'll still get good meals in. Don't get me wrong here, but I might just loosen up my dinner choices. Steph and I might be going out to dinner more. Maybe on a weekend, on a Friday night, I'll have a cheat, but I'll still have one Saturday, and I may even do it some pancakes after church on Sunday, and I'll be fine. Like, I don't really gain weight. Usually, like I've said in the past, I could be really strict in my off season and be about a caliber test 7%. I cannot be super strict and still be about a 9%. And to most people's visual eye, there's really not a huge difference. And I'm just talking calipers. I know that DEXA scans and everything else will give different numbers. So for me, I guess, it's not something that I've had to sit and, the reason I gave that little background is it's not something I've had to sit and really think about hardcore. But what I will say is, you always want to figure out why. So if someone's binge eating, why? What's triggering it? And then, why are you in diet burnout? Like, sit and ask yourself that. I believe in off season and actually allowing people, if it fits your macros. I really don't go overboard with it. I think the worst thing I have on a daily basis, unless I'm just having a cheat meal, and then it's whatever. I don't sit. I'm not guilty about it. Are those popped crispy rice cake things? They're chocolate. I'll work those in maybe once a day into some carbs, about 25 grams worth. I just like the crunch. I like the sweetness. And then I'll try to work a halo top in here and there. So my point is, if you're feeling diet burnout, why not switch to a more flexible / if it fits your macros type plan? Hit yourself with a caloric deficit. Set your macros up where you think they need to be. There's so many calculators online. If you don't have a coach, make sure you're in a caloric deficit, but add in the foods you want to eat. Like, literally want to eat. If you want a bowl of cereal post-workout, fine. Weigh it out, portion it out, and hit your macros for a while. And A lot of times I find that'll get people in a groove, and then as you go, start getting more and more serious. Pull that cereal out, put in cream of rice, cream of wheat, oats. I can pull those popped out and put in jasmine rice. So get yourself back in track without limiting any food that you consider good and bad. Just get your macros set, get yourself tracking, get some good workouts in. If you're in a deficit, you're going to drop, especially if you've been eating really bad and you've got fat on you that usually your body doesn't want. And then you can just see how you're feeling. And you may get where you want to be by still doing, if it fits your macros. And if you don't, then you can start subbing things out. But once you get 2 to 3 weeks in and you're kind of on a roll, usually it's easier to do. So other than that, it's about finding your why. So many things happen that cause diet burnout. So I hope that helps a little bit. Someone asked about GDAs and my use of them in the off season. Definitely use them. It's such a wide topic of discussion, but how do I generally do it? I use my Slintrol product from Natty Nutrition, and I'll take one per carb meal that I'm having. Any cheat meals, I'll do 2. Or with a cheat meal, I might even throw in berberine and do the Slintrol. About 400 milligrams of berberine. Studies have said that berberine is very similar in its results to metformin. And if you know what metformin is, it's a diabetic drug to help with basically type 2 diabetics that don't need insulin, but they've lost insulin sensitivity big time. So it works. That one works very well, and if you can get your hands on it, that one works great too. Anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams a day spread out will work great on that. But if you can't get your hands on that, the Slintrol and then berberine works well. My New Ethics supplement company, our GDA is in. We're just getting everything kind of organized with the website, the product, just kind of everything organized, and we're going to launch. That one takes the old Slintrol formula and supercharges it. We add berberine to it, not in a huge amount because we don't want people going hypo, but we added about 100 milligrams, one capsule of berberine. So I probably will use 2 with most of my meals if I need it. But remember, it's still got the Slintrol in it and adds berberine. It adds NA, it adds RALA, which is also a powerful glucose disposal agent, and a few other things like green tea. It's a really powerful, nice, well-rounded formula. So I'll be switching to that most likely. But I think what will happen is, say I only have a meal with 30 carbs, I probably would do a Slintrol. If I had a meal with 50 to 60, I would hit the new GDA. And then if I have metformin laying around, I usually would use that with any big cheat meals. So it's kind of like advanced layering of glucose disposal agents. You don't want to take a sledgehammer to a small carb meal. You might make yourself go hypo. And then someone followed up under that, why do you use GDAs to try to get the carb intake up? Well, because GDA stands for glucose disposal agent. So what you're trying to do is get those carbs to be shuttled and seeded into the muscle more likely than the fat cells. Now, what's happening is the supplements, the herbs and the minerals and things in the formulas are making your body more insulin sensitive, or making it more ready to accept its insulin, so it doesn't have to release as much insulin. If it's not releasing as much insulin, then in theory it really shouldn't be shuttling to the fat cells. So that's kind of the theory behind. So as your carbs are going up, you're more likely to get fat and store body fat. So that's when you really want your GDAs. So hope that answers that question. What are my theories on reverse dieting, training, and all that? Well, reverse dieting, that could be a 45-minute topic of itself, but here's where I've kind of always been. If someone struggled really hard to get their weight off for the show, calories got really low, cardio got really high, they're endomorphic, they're female. So all those things stacked up against them, I'm going to recommend a very slow reverse diet out of the show. No way am I going to say, okay, let's add 700 calories right off the bat. We might, with them, slowly decrease cardio, taper them off any fat burners, and maybe just add, 100 calories, 200 calories off the bat, and then every week or so add in 20, 25, 15 carbs around training and just start getting their metabolism built back up slowly. For men, and a lot of men I work with who aren't former fatties and they're in decent shape when they start their prep, they don't get fat easy. Myself, I include in this. I'll add 700 calories right off the pop, because they're not going to be at risk for getting too fat, and I want to get the body growing again and get the hormones restored. The faster you can get, healthy fats back in, get the calories back up, the faster you're going to restore hormones, and the faster you're going to be training hard again and recovered. So, I don't think reverse dieting is a one-size-fit-all at all. There's people out there who practice it for whoever it is, and I've never been like that. So, I think you have to know yourself and go from there. I will say, even if your metabolism is badass, if you go too hard and add too many carbs too quickly, let's say you got down to 100, even though you got a pretty good metabolism, I do that sometimes for shows, I would not go right up to a 400, 450 carb intake. I've had clients do it, I've advised against it, and they end up with high blood pressure and feeling super lethargic. You still should reverse diet in some way. It's just a matter of how aggressive can you be with it. I think we all know that the days of going into eating just junk and shit and 5,000 calorie days on top of each other post-show is unhealthy, and I don't care who you are, it's going to lead to body fat accrual. So training. This one, again, is kind of how rough was the prep. And, a lot of times the prep was really rough. It was really long. I will put someone on what everyone likes to call a bro split. I'll pull them back to 4 days per week. It'll be like a chest try, back by, legs, and then abs, calves, and shoulders 4 times a week. And I'll ask them to not hit PRs and just kind of do a pump workouts 4 times a week and let the body rest. It's kind of a judgment call on my, when to do that. There are some people who I get to reverse diet into a show. Their carbs never get that low. They never really feel that awful. And I'll go ahead and let them hop right into a gaining phase right after the show. We'll put the calories up pretty high, adjust supplementation, and maybe still keep them at 5 to 6 days and say, hey, for 6 weeks, let's push here. But again, that's a judgment call on how their prep went. More times than not, I'm finding myself, I do that more with men than women, but there are some women who do pretty well with prep too, and they don't have to get super low, and cardio wasn't super high, and I'm okay with pushing for 5 to 6 weeks after that because I'm able to push their calories up faster. It's the people who I have to take a more slow approach with getting their calories up who I'm going to probably pull back to the 4 days per week, expect less out of them, and train lighter and let the body relax. It's really about how aggressive was that prep and where and how do you feel. And then even with the people that I'd have push for 6 weeks after that, we would probably do a bro split type, 4 days per week, no PR training, do it for 4 to 5 weeks, let the body heal up, and then see where we're at and go from there and chase PRs and chase new weight and reps and things of that nature. So anyways, I hope this helps. I got to get to doing something else, and I'll see you all soon.